Yo, yo, yo. Come YAHsharal, come YAHsharal. This your brother JAHsh. And I want to give a big shout outs to Yahweh, he who be who he be. as sabbatical likes to say. But he's not lying though. He who be who he be is Yah, Yahweh is being. So all praises to the being, all praises to the ineffable, the utterly unknowable, and by his mercy and by his grace we are known, we know, um, you know. So, but this is going to be a down to earth portion, not getting into anything heavy unless it's by Yah, and and I just am not conscious of it or whatnot, which we don't have to be. We don't always have to be conscious of what's deep or what's heavy that we speak of, because we know, just like our heart, we're not always focused on it beating, but it does beat. You know what I mean? And for all you haters out there who are like, oh, look, he just talked about the heart. That means he worships the heart. No, I was just using it as an example, just like breath, that you don't always think about those things, but you do them. All right. So today I got up this morning and, praise Yah, a lot of things came to my mind when because a lot of times I just think about why is it that we have so much problems with this demon, Jesus, or why is it that we have so much problems with the God of good and bad, you know what I mean? AKA Lucifer, the ugly, beautiful one, right? So it came to my mind that, even as a child, and praise Yah, that anytime I read the Gospels and I read the scriptures, that I never in my mind, it never occurred to me to worship a man. Even whenever I was a child and I read the scriptures or the so-called ghost spells, right? Is that I read them, and when I read them, I was seeking to get an understanding of the Father or the great God, as I used to think of Elohim as a child, as the great God, right? And I knew that even in church, or even when exposed to outside sources or people preaching, if you will, that it wasn't the whole picture, right? Because you would hear the story about Christ or Jesus or whatnot, and it was just that, a story. But in that, as a child, I was always hearing it and seeking how to understand who the Father is, or who the Father is that would send such a person to have happen and to have all that stuff happen to. Which, as an adult, I come to the understanding that it's not, of course, that it's not that, to say the least, So the question I ask myself is, when reading the Gospels, or the so-called ghost spells, right? And when one actually has read them a lot of times, I've read them a lot, and I will agree, and I know that there are booby traps in it, right? And not, besides the fact that it's a Greek writing, ultimately, there are things in it that were used, or concepts, if you will, or certain principles that have been used from Hebraic, or from Rawak, or as Judah would say, the movement, right? Breath, that allows it to still be used as some sort of gate, if you will, into who's going to serve Yahweh through the Tanakh, or the teachings, or the Torah, Thawarah, And who's going to just fall off the cliff and just and serve Paul and his made up Lucifer or God of light? You know what I'm saying? So it seems to me that all praises to Yahweh, it's almost like the perfect weapon. It's almost like the perfect weapon to divide up and separate. It's a sword, right? Because think about all the nations out there that have a crux, that have a crux and rely upon religions such as Catholicism, Roman Catholicism, Gnosticism, you know what I mean? Coptic, you know what I mean? All these ancient, so-called ancient, and it goes way back, of course. And we see in modern times the emergence of these things such as Commission and all this blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So that was on my mind is why is it that some people read the Gospels and can make a transition from the Gospels back into the Tanakh and the Thawarah with a spiritual understanding, and some can't make that transition? They have to continue on going forward with the New Testament, so-called, and end up worshiping a man as the light, right? Because we know that's what we see. It's absolute evident, right? We see that in all the churches, all the denominations, no matter what, especially in Christianity, or rather with Islam, we see it as the moon, how they worship the moon. It's blatantly obvious. The sign for Islam is the crescent moon with the Venus star. But we see that Lucifer still has a play in that because of the Venus star, of course. And you can actually still see that in the sky to this day. If there's ever a crescent moon, granted, it's not as close together as that flag, but it's still there. So, sorry, drinking some coffee. So that's what all praises to Yah. That was on my mind, Yahweh. So, why is it that we can't understand the concept that they stole in order to make us worship this idol, right? Why is it that we can't understand that concept? The concept of worshiping, or in a lot of times we say worship, but sometimes it's deeper than that. It's a yearning, it's a seeking, it's an expectation, a hope for, right? And we see this throughout the New Testament, such philosophy as hope and a twisting of faith, right? They say faith, but we know it's not faith per se, because faith requires you to truly know that nothing will save you, right? That is faith. There's nothing here that will save you. That's faith. So anything else outside of that is almost, right? And is subject to the principles. Subject to change and rearrange, destruction and reconstruction, All praises to Yahweh for setting all principalities in its order, right? For we know that Yahweh is Elohim. So, all right. So why is it that throughout these so-called gospels that we can't understand that we are the Son of Man, right? Even well, I wouldn't say as a child, but as I got older and I was reading them before I come into, the wisdom of Yahweh, then I had a feeling, especially around, I would say about teenage years, high school years, because I kept diving into the narrative, and after reading many new age so-called books and many things that you would find in a Barnes and Noble, Borders bookstore, whatever that was here at the time, anything new age that would say talk about a consciousness, right? And so, and of course, I've since learned that consciousness is not what's to be upheld and worshiped, obviously, because we see the Commission, so-called conscious community, suffering so much. If they're so conscious, why are they not conscious of Yahweh? And even not to stray off too much, praise Yah, is that why can't we get the understanding of us being the Son of Man, which the Thawarah teaches us? We are the sons of Yahweh, right? We are the servants of Yahweh. We are the so-called, quote, parentheses, chosen of Yahweh as YAHsharal, right? Because our forefather, Jacob, who became YAHsharal, solidified the oracle status of YAHsharal, meaning that Yahweh in Yahweh's movement uses us as oracles of Yahweh and what Yahweh is doing. All praises to Yah. So that's one thing that was on my mind, and is to really talk about why is it that some of us, and I keep saying why as the threshold, right? But we see that some people are not really YAHsharal. Of course, they're not YAHsharal in their DNA, so-called. They're not YAHsharal in their blood, because they are able to read the so-called Gospels and further on fall into the Pauline epistles, right? And praise Yah that even in those, you can still find your way back, because we still have, if understood correctly, we still have James, and we still have some of Peter, and we still have some of John, and some of those names so-called that allude to returning to a lifestyle of Thawarah, or a mind state of walking with Yahweh. You know what I mean? But of course, we know with Paul, he was willing to do, the entity of Paul was willing to do whatever in order to uphold his gospel of Lucifer, or worshiping man, or putting man in the place of Elohim, right? So we see that as the truth. So what was it about the Gospels that prevents that? It's a lot. But we see throughout the Gospels what it is that is able to prevent our brothers and sisters from coming back, because littered within the Gospels are traps, if you will, that, if not understood correctly as deception, will lead our brothers and sisters into the so-called New Testimony. And there's another one, right? Because even Solomon or whatnot, Solomon said that there's nothing new under the sun. So that should have been a red flag to anyone who trusts in the words of our forefathers in order to add them into and see them as a leading up to what we have today. Now, that is another proof that people just aren't YAHsharal. If you are truly YAHsharal, you would not throw away all of the teachings of your forefathers in order to just ride on something that's modern. You know what I mean? That's just foolish. Only foolish people do that. Massive amounts of Christians are foolish because they totally throw away the teachings that are in the Tanakh based on an idea that there's nothing spiritual about it, that it's all pure, just physical, when those who study it and read it know otherwise. Am I wrong? You know, you leave a comment if you have something, if you think that I'm talking out of turn, or, you know, then we can reason. But it's obvious that Christianity will have y'all serving a man rather than seeking Yahweh within, right? Which you can also find in the Gospels. You can find the so-called character of Christ, who we call a Torah teacher, because we know in truth that there were many Torah teachers, especially after the Zadokites or the Zadoks, who taught about the waters of Thawarah and who taught about cleansing and being pure by the teachings, right? There was many of them at that time. So it's not difficult to see how an amalgamation could have been made and formulated and then presented as a gospel or a New Testament, right? Based off one character. But all of us, praise Yah, who he's opened our minds up, can see that the gospels are just an amalgamation. They're just little bits and pieces of the Tanakh put together along with what was actually being taught by the Zadokites, right? Or Zadok wisdom, which they were carrying on from ancient times. Because we know Abraham was taught Zadok teachings, right? Based on Malak Zadok, right? Because that is what opens the door for us to really embrace Yahweh, even in the ancient times, in the form of Alahayim, right? In the form of principle in action. These principles in action. You know what I mean? So just understand that Abraham wasn't just some simple guy, you know, in the sense of modern terms of a Christian or something. Like, you know, Christianity likes to take on, and when I say Christianity, I also mean Egyptology, right? And lump all the rest of those within that too. Not just Christianity, but Hinduism, Egyptology, Buddhism, you know, any pantheon of gods put together as a central worshiping figure of light. Luciferianism, put them all in together, you know, because that's really going to show you that Yahweh separates his people from the rest. Because the rest cannot put down the gods of their nations, of their forefathers. They can't do it. They can't destroy the idols from within themselves. They just can't do it. And, you know, a piece of me thinks it's a shame, but the large majority of the mind does not waver over that. It just is what it is, you know? It's a lot. Because we can see here some examples of how the teachers of righteousness bring our people back to the teachings, right? Or little things. And this sort of thought, you can see how YAHsharal, for lack of better words, or Adama, right? Children of Adama. Even the teachings way back then, before the worshiping of the tree of good and bad, was prevalent in the sense of we were living Alahayim. We were the principles, right? And that might be too heavy for some. But if you read and read and read, you read enough. And all praises to Yahweh, based on the amount of understanding that he gives you, based on what you're reading, then you can grasp that Adama being principles, right? we were living principles. We were living Alahayim. There was no separation, okay? So that is the earliest form that we see of this separation into good and bad, which inevitably meant that we would have to suffer mistake, right? Because knowing good and bad, you're in a state of I would say scientific method, if you will, like practice, fail, practice, fail, practice, fail. And things become a struggle. It becomes a sweat. The ground becomes something that you have to toil in order to produce, right? It wasn't before how we were the principle and we were the production, right? If you can understand that. All praises to Yahweh. So that's taking it back to early times, though. But as we look down through the line, we could see how us as the principles still manifested itself through our ancestor Jacob, and how Jacob manifests as a nation of principles, a nation of powers, right? If that wasn't the case, then we would not be blessed with 12 different tribes, each having a power, right? Each being a principle. Now, this might be, like, once again, all praises to Yahweh, because this might be too heavy for some. And being that, you know, Yahweh is using me, you know, to, I guess, truncate these teachings. But we see exactly those who've kept up with Torah nights and the actual teaching portions of what we do. Then you could definitely see that the Thawarah and the way we approach the Thawarah is one and the same. It's one-minded, and that's what keeps us connected. You know, that's what keeps us as Torah keepers connected. One mind. And those who are one-minded can see that prevails over all things physical, because the mind before all things is not material. Okay, but not to veer off too much. So in the Gospels, so to speak, we see many times who this character is, and sometimes this character makes it appear as this character is Alahayim, and at other times this character makes itself appear that it's just a servant of Alahayim. So that principle right there is what allows those who are not deeply rooted in the Thawarah to fall astray. Because if you read the Thawarah, then you would understand this principle of the teachers of righteousness, that even in how you talk every day, this is something that you should think about. Every day when you're talking, do you hear Yahweh speak through you? Do you hear the Thawarah speak through you? Do you hear wisdom in action? Do you hear the principles in action? Do you hear the angels? Do you hear the karabs? You know what I mean? Do you hear them in action through you? Are they manifesting your connection to the mind through you? And you can judge by how far Yahweh is bringing you through that idea alone. You yourself can judge. Now, these teachings are barely slightly touched upon in the so-called Gospels, but they're there. You know, they're there if you are not blind into seeking and yearning for somebody to bring them to you. If you're seeking and yearning for nothing to bring them to you, then surely they will arrive in due time and in due order, as Yahweh does, is order things. So that's something for y'all to think about, whenever you're approaching these scriptures and you're trying to figure out why it is that people can read these gospels and go astray so far to where they resemble somebody such as G-Man, who we obviously see his mind is fragmented so hard that all he does is seek blood, right? That's all he does. That's all he is like a messenger of sacrifice by blood, and that's it. So if you expect to get anything else from him, then you're fooling yourself, right? Surely you're fooling yourself. And big ups to the brother Judah Thawarah for constantly smashing down these cats, because Yahweh uses that brother as like a hammer, you know what I mean? And they hate it. They hate it. It's not hard to see that. They hate it because that hammer just smashes. They hate it so bad they can't even tell when Judah is being serious and whenever he's joking. That's how you know you got a problem. And is it not a testimony to Yahweh that he keeps the tribe of Judah, or Judah, manifested as that firebrand, that house on fire, right? Did Judah just now expose or drop Dawah, the teaching of Dawah according to the Thawarah, right? The firebrand, the house of fire, right? The incense altar, you know what I mean? Was that not exposed, praise Yahweh, or revealed, praise Yahweh? So that's what I'm saying, man, is that there are certain benchmarks and there's certain things within you that you need to check or put in a file cabinet. Like, okay, I know that this brother is going off because of this. Now let me file that away so that I'm not fooled by it again and just move on. You know what I mean? That's the kind of mindset that you have to have, or mind, if you will. Sometimes I try not to use that word set because it reminds me too much of Satan, or like, like Commission, like SETI. You know what I mean? And I do seek further understanding on that, Yahweh, But I sometimes, how you say something and you're like, man, that just rubs me the wrong way. Even though it does mean, I guess in English, set is like a set, or it has multiple meanings, But you know how English is, right? It's a booby trap in itself. So, that's why I praise Yah that even if you can listen to this and you can get something that's going to touch you in the soul, then that's all praises to Yahweh alone. Because, we're human. We're man. We're Adama, who bit from the tree. Damn it. With corrupted wisdom, right? She offered us up something that was corrupted, and we bit. Just like it says in Proverbs, the foul city. You got to avoid being in the foul city. Man, look at that. It's raining here. It was just sunshine. Now it's raining. Praise Yah. Things manifest themselves just how it is, man. We got to get our brains, get this ground, The soil must be drenched after the seeds have been laid down. And there was further things that I wanted to get into. Let's see. I mean, there's so much in the Gospels, man. It's really so much to touch on, But that's what my prayer, if anything, it could be meant from this, is just that if you find yourself, having to go back to the Gospels for reference for things, just know that if you're going through the Gospels and you're using it as a teaching tool to bring our people back to Thawarah, then reveal to them how they are the Son of Man. And in fact, you reflected in the Son of Man, right? Even down to where the persecution and the hanging, we see that, especially in our people who were hung from trees, who were persecuted just for being a different color of skin. You know what I'm saying? There is a parallel to the Son of Man in that, right? But you gotta separate the magic out of all of that. You gotta have that mind of being able to Salak. What's that called, Yahweh? What is that called? Discernment. You have to have a mind of discernment. You must be able to discern what's the magic part of the Gospels from what's the actual teaching part. You know what I mean? And there are brothers who argue that why even go refer to the Gospels to teach from? But that's a good argument. But the fact remains is that Yahweh hasn't decided to get rid of the Gospels or the so-called New Testaments totally from people's minds, or else it would be so. You know what I mean? So I don't argue all day and all night with brothers who are Torah only, who say, yo, why do y'all even use the New Testament as a way back? And it's not that we're using the New Testament, it's that Yahweh still cares for people enough, or especially the ones that are his, to use things that don't necessarily reflect purity to bring people back to being pure. Because if you say Yahweh can't do that, then you are forfeiting the truth of Yahweh in that, and you're forfeiting the truth of Elohim and Yahweh as Elohim, as being the order and the king and the sovereign over all principles. That by saying that, you are saying that Yahweh can't do something. And by saying that, you are blaspheming Yahweh. Because Yahweh can do anything at any time and nothing at all at the same time. Right? So all praises to Yahweh. And besides you even understanding how Yahweh does that, it matters not. You know, Yahweh doesn't rely upon you. You rely upon Yahweh. Right? And that's for all you evil ones out there. You get smashed constantly because Yahweh smashes you constantly. Because you always question, how is it that Yahweh allows this or does this? You should be grateful for having that shield on you, so that none of the stuff or none of the wickedness takes you away from serving Yahweh. You should be grateful instead of disgraceful. Right? So that's just what, that's the message. Praise Yahweh. You know what I mean? So just remember, you are the Son of Man. And what does the Son of Man do? The Son of Man seeks to serve Yahweh. Our forefathers did it, right? And we can see it all throughout the scripture, where we fell away from seeking and serving Yahweh in sincerity of heart and sincerity of soul, and we got corrupted, and he turned his face away from us, and we fell to destruction. Constantly throughout the Tanakh, constantly. I don't even have to pinpoint one time because it was constant. All the way from the first biting of the good and bad tree to our forefathers during Noah's time, who fell away because they got high-minded and started dabbling into the principles and separating themselves from being the principles and dabbling into manipulation of principles, right? Because they were utilizing that good and bad, right? This is good. I can do this. This is good. And then what happened? The bad came and uprooted them. That's what happens when you rely on that tree, man. You start to do one thing, You start to do bad too much, and then what happens? The good comes, uproots you, because you rely on that tree. You can't see how Yahweh uses the good and the bad. That's why you're not allowed to bite from the tree of life. You know what I mean? That's why the Karab is there. That's why the angels are here to slice you and to prevent you from that tree. Why? Lest you live on forever bullshitting, in other words. So, and it continues on. We see all throughout the Tanakh the times that we stopped actually trusting in Yahweh to move us and to allow us to exist, and trusting in our own thoughts in order to try to allow in order to try to manifest an existence for ourselves, right? In other words, that's self-worship, right? And that's another part of the so-called gospels that allows people to get caught up, is self-worship, right? We see that obviously through these Luciferians. Luciferians worship themselves, and they will do anything to continue to worship themselves, right? Sleight of hand, passing off their sins onto others. Obvious, it's obvious. The sacrificial doctrine is an obvious arrow to that. The sacrificial doctrine is the ultimate doctrine that allows you to put your sins off onto someone else. Why? Because all your sins were so-called put on one man who died for you, right? Even though in the Tanakh you find no reference where Yahweh says another man is going to die for you, is going to shed his blood for you, and then you're going to be sinless. And you can just say that guy's name every time you want to do a sin and feel bad for it. You know what I'm saying? Then nowhere in the Tanakh do you see that. In fact, the very thing that y'all reference cuts you. Everything that you reference, or everything that the Greeks put together, or everything that Lucifer and his minions put together to justify that, when you go back to the Tanakh and you research it, it destroys it. Why? Right? Whenever Isaac was going to be offered when Isaac was going to be offered as a sacrifice, right? Did he die? Was he sacrificed? No. But instead of just stopping there at the truth that Yahweh prevented the sacrifice, the Christians and the Luciferians, the Egyptians, right, the Hindus, they were twisted and say that was a prelude, a foreshadow. If you're those of you who come from Christianity, you'll find that is one of their favorite words to use. Foreshadow. And all they do is dive into the shadows and get lost in the shadow of death. You know, that's the only shadow that was foreshadowed for them. Because the truth of the matter is that was a foreshadow, if you will, that Yahweh was not going to allow a sacrificial doctrine over our people to be a way of salvation. We see it constantly throughout the Tanakh, especially in the parts where Yahweh is disgusted by our sacrifices of blood, of animal blood. We see that in the Tanakh. Where Yahweh was it's a lot, man. You just, man, once you get moving, man, man. So, Yahweh hates sacrifice, hates it. Even that word sacrifice, because of how it's been so convoluted and twisted, right? Far from what a true sacrifice is, right? A true sacrifice is akin to a true fast. And a true fast is to separate that with something that you're clinging to in order to properly meditate on the Thawarah and on Yahweh's teaching and on Yahweh alone. Even if you can't find the time to meditate on the teaching, meditate on Yahweh alone, the name. Meditate on the name Yahweh, on Yahweh alone. If you can't find the time to meditate on particular teachings, because some people aren't sent here to be teachers per se of the Thawarah. Some people are sent here to represent Yahweh, so that Yahweh may be praised throughout all the nations. Period. Period. You know? So I know it's been going, it's about 40 minutes. I don't want to take too much time. All praises to Yahweh, because even I know how it is when you watch videos and they're long. But, I don't know what it is about today. It hasn't come to my awareness, but on this so-called day, June the 2nd, 2017, the voice of Yahweh is speaking to y'all, man, and edifying y'all and strengthening you in what to have your mind like. In other words, what to have YAHsharal like. In other words, seek, just like Judah talked about in the video. If you're seeking the Wad, if you're seeking the earthly Messiah, or so-called the King of YAHsharal from the clouds, you're going off. Because all throughout the scriptures, we see constantly that Yahweh raises up his own from amongst his own. Look among your own if you're looking for the earthly king, the king, you know what I mean? Look amongst us, right? But first of all, you won't be able to see unless you have the Wad. If you do not have beloved within, you will not see beloved without. These are principles. These are principles that are ours. And it's obvious that we see it throughout all these nations who use little bits and pieces of wisdom from Yahweh, but they can never present the complete picture like Yahweh can. It's like what I wrote on Facebook. Ask any Commission, ask any Egyptologist, any of those people, show us, since all the things are on the in writing, and since all things are, on the pyramid, and not the pyramid, but since all things are, discovered in Egypt, where are all the building? Where are the building schematics in the ruins of Egypt? Where are those at? Straight up. Any of you commissions out there, if anybody stumbles upon this, because I know only not a whole lot of people watch these vids, but show me where an Egyptian, a commission, any of those types have found the schematics as detail oriented as the schematics that we have in the Tanakh of the holy sanctuaries. Show me that, right? Because that goes, that's probably a lesson for another time. But where is that at? They say we built the pyramids. No, I'm saying that we built the pyramids. And we are the progenitors of all the most architecturally magnificent and unfathomable buildings. We are, through Yahweh and through wisdom, which you can see in the Tanakh, that all the people commissioned to build the sanctuaries were full of wisdom and were skilled, right? But that might be something for another time. But anyways, let me not keep going. All praises to Yahweh for all things. may all y'all be blessed, man. All you brothers and sisters out there. And, you know, hey, it is what it is, man. This is Down to Earth 3 or maybe 4. 3 or 4. Down to earth, man. You know, there's something coming that it's gonna get the attention of all people, and it ain't some hologram of some man coming in the sky. It's darkness, and it's a shutting down. It's a day of darkness and gloom and thunder. You know what I mean? This ain't some little cute My Little Pony salvation. You know what I mean? This is the real deal. Know where it's coming from. Remember the creation. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. This is before there were any material formed. So how in the world are they going to take YAHsharal off the scene? This is what's within us, coming to destroy y'all.